Deep sea fishing at 62 degrees latitude. The fishing trawler Iris is among the most modern of its kind in Europe.
It's like the USS Enterprise. It doesn't get much better than this.
The crew, led by their captain, fish for pollock, catching it in large quantities and processing it by hand. The work is both demanding and dangerous.
It's a hard job. There are a lot of heavy harnesses on board. It's a bit like walking a tightrope. Hooks can break and fly towards your head. If that happens, it can be over very quickly.
The crew fishes tirelessly around the clock, with each catch bringing its own unique challenges. Quick decisions are essential.
The wholesalers need fish and fillets, and they're always pleased to buy fresh fish from me.
When the cold storage is full, the goods are shipped to Germany or other parts of the world.
We have 100 tabs right now, about 28 to 30 tons. That's very good for 24 hours of fishing.
20 crates for 16.6 Danish crowns. That's 220. Very good prices.
Deep sea fishing, a job that pushes the limits. The fishing port in Cuxhaven is home to the trawler Iris. It has just returned from a trial trip on the Elbe. Its engine has been serviced and thoroughly tested. Before the ship embarks on its next journey north, supplies must be carefully stowed. Along with diesel, food, and water, containers known as tabs are loaded. These will later be used to store the catch on ice. To open the hatches on deck, the gangplank must first be removed. Once completed, the team is ready to go. Hundreds of small and large tabs are stored in the trawler's cold storage. Captain Fritz Flindt stands on the bridge, ready to steer the trawler into Norwegian waters to fish for pollock with his crew. The sea trial was a success, and the engine performed flawlessly. The captain is confident.
We'll start in southern Norway and travel north. Afterwards, we might drive up to the Shetland Islands, depending on the weather and where the fish are.
Before venturing onto the high seas, they're going to make one last stop in Denmark. It's the final point before they face wind, waves, and hopefully return with full nets. Hanstholm in Denmark. The small village in the northern part of the country has a turbulent history. During the Second World War, it became part of the German defensive structure known as the Atlantic Wall. The Skagerrak, the passage between the North Sea and the Baltic Sea, was strategically important. Weathered bunkers and old cannons stand as reminders of the past, with a museum dedicated to the wartime period. Today, Hanstholm is a vital fishing hub, where North Sea trawlers deliver their catch. The trawler has its secondary home port here. After departing overnight from Cuxhaven, the ship traveled for about 12 hours to reach northern Denmark. From there, it will head out to the fishing area. Measuring 35 meters in length, the Iris is classified as a medium-sized ship. Trawlers of this type are typically used for small-scale deep-sea fishing, which involves trips lasting about a week. The ship can carry a cargo of up to 65 tons of fish. The crew size varies. On this trip, there will be 5 men on board. They fish 24 hours a day. It's a tough and exhausting job. The journey to the fishing area is set to begin in the evening. But there's still a net on the key that needs attention. Some of the rubber rollers had to be replaced. Later, the net will be dragged across the ground using these rollers. The net's various parts are secured with steel cables and chains, connected through sheaves and bolts. Captain Fritz Flindt inspects the setup carefully, fully aware that this work is challenging to carry out at sea. In the engine room on board the Iris, First Mate Mark Hilger is preparing for departure. He initiates combustion in the ship's heavy diesel engine. After a period of preheating, the engine finally starts. But the ship is not ready to set sail just yet.
Starting a larger engine involves more than just pressing a button and turning a key. First, I activate the engine's pre-lubrication pump to ensure that oil flows through all the bearings and provides lube. Next, I check the oil level to make sure there's enough. I wait until the engine has been flushed with oil. When that's done, I press the start button. The engine follows its own startup program. Then I gradually increase the engine's output rather than going all out right away. This allows the oil to warm up properly. Once all the pressure readings are correct, I can set the engine speed I want.
Outside, the net is ready. Once the engine reaches the proper temperature, the ship will change position and reel in the fishing gear. The fishing vessel Iris is moored in Hanstholm, Denmark, preparing to head to the northern fishing grounds at 62 degrees latitude. A repaired net needs to be brought on board, so the trawler must reposition itself with its stern facing the quay wall, much like a captain would repark a car, only on a larger scale.
That's good.
On land, a sailor pulls the net together. The ship moves into the right position. The men fasten the lines for the last step before setting sail. The net is secured on board. The helmsman straps on the remote control for the heavy winches. The steel cable and chain are released. Outside, a forklift assists in pulling the link. It weighs several tons. A sailor carefully measures the exact distances on both sides of the net. It's about precision, down to the centimeter. The net is ready to be brought on board. The following day, they want to make their first big catch with it, a haul. The upper part of the net opening consists of small rubber rings and balls. Larger rubber rings run along the bottom of the net. The entire net measures 250 meters in length. At the end of the net is the rump, a section where the fish are collected. It's now wound onto the drum. The rump itself is approximately 25 meters long and can hold several tons of fish. The mesh size of the net varies depending on the species of fish. To ensure that smaller marine animals have a chance to escape, the team uses a net with a mesh size much larger than usual. All set. The Iris departs from the port of Hanstholm in Denmark at 9 p.m. The port has no lock and operates year-round. Captain Fritz Flindt enters data into the logbook. What no one here suspects is that the tour will turn out differently than planned. Before heading north, Flindt deregisters the ship with the port authorities.
Hanstholm Port, Iris, good evening.
Iris, Hanstholm Port.
Good evening. We're good to see you. We'll start the ship in 5 minutes.
That's okay, there's no traffic, so just go ahead and have a nice trip.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye, good luck.
The ice machine is operating below deck. It will produce a substantial amount of ice over the next few hours to ensure an unbroken cold chain. The first mate is in charge.
I'm in the fish room. I've just turned on the ice machines and switched on the conveyor belts. We produce the first ice for our initial catch here. The ice machines can produce 6 to 8 tons per day.
Large amounts of ice fall into the containers, the tabs. The ice machine will run continuously. Up to 65 tons of fish must be cooled and covered at all times. Captain Flindt takes over the first watch. All is quiet.
I'll stay up here for now until dawn when the sun rises. Then I'll get some sleep, and my helmsman Mark can take over. I want them to get some rest because I don't want them to burn out right at the start of the trip.
It's pitch black outside, but that doesn't mean the captain is blind.
AIS is activated and I've set the alarm. We're quite well equipped. As soon as the ship appears 6 miles away, the alarm will go off. You have to be careful. We have digital marine charts. You can see where all the ships are and where they're headed. So we have a good overview. We're currently traveling at 9 knots, 90 miles in 10 hours. We'll be moving now for 15 hours.
Then the crew can finally go fishing. The 62nd parallel. After a 15-hour journey, the Iris is nearing its designated fishing area. The crew plans to fish for pollock in the waters between Norway and Scotland. The trawler can process and store up to 65 tons of catch on board. This fishing expedition will last several days. The crew has spent the night resting and is now preparing the final breakfast before they set off. Once the net is in the water, a rhythm of catching, butchering, and storing begins. This intense process continues for days and nights, with little to no sleep.
It's like a small family here on board. We often get together and discuss personal things. It really is like having a second family. You need to feel comfortable with those around you if you want to open up. When we can, we eat breakfast together. The quality of our fishing impacts our time together. If we have a good catch, we can spend more time eating as a group. However, if the fishing is tough, everyone tends to make themselves a sandwich. In general, we try to eat together. You never know what the next haul will bring. or whether you'll get a chance for a break.
The crew aboard the Iris dream of a big haul. Full nets mean plenty of hard work, but they also promise a significant financial reward. No one knows yet what this trip will bring, but it's certain to leave a lasting impression on the team. Fritz Flindt takes over the next watch. From now on, he will hardly get any sleep. Deep sea fishing is still considered extremely dangerous.
You also need to have experience working on deck. There are a few people in the crew who are a bit older. They're well trained and know what's going on. But if you have a trainee with you, it's important to be cautious. They can only go on deck with an experienced sailor. Hauling in the nets can be problematic. They weigh tons. Something could break or fly off, so you need to be careful and have a skilled team. You have to know what to do at any time. What we do is not easy.
It's a hard job. There are a lot of heavy harnesses on board. It's a bit like walking a tightrope. Hooks can break and fly toward your head. If that happens, it can be over very quickly. In bad weather, you might be walking along the edge at the back, and a big wave can come along and sweep you away.
The ship is ready for the first catch. The captain will be able to check the net from the bridge later. The machines in the fish factory are currently at a standstill, but they will be operational with just a push of a button. This ultra-modern processing facility can efficiently clean and process fish in just a few hours. The Iris is a new ship. The technology is now much more efficient. Despite all the hardships, the crew lives differently on board today.
We used to process 5 tons in 10 hours, all by hand. Today, it can be done in just 1 hour. People get enough sleep and are always rested. In the past, tiredness made us lose a lot of energy. We were on deck for long hours. That's no longer the case. Now, people can rest, eat and sleep when needed. Everyone has their own space and private room, which wasn't possible before. We used to have 6 people sharing a small room. It was fun back then, but things have changed. Now we even have the internet. In the past, we could only make a phone call once a month when we were unloading in the harbour. The phone booth was always so busy that it was difficult to get in.
The crew prepares below deck, lowering the net into the water to begin fishing. Helmets and life jackets are mandatory. Mistakes can lead to fatal consequences. The 250-meter-long net is secured with chains and ropes, making it a heavy construction that weighs several tons, even when empty. The net is set into the water. The rump goes in first, which typically contains the most fish. The opening with its rubber rolls follows. The ropes have been meticulously measured to the centimeter, ensuring that the net opens evenly. Finally, there are the trawl boards. They ensure that the net remains open underwater. Below deck, the factory is being prepared for operation. The conveyor belts are in motion, and the slaughtering machine is ready. The entire deck is flooded to allow for quick drainage of slaughter waste. On the bridge, the captain monitors the instruments. After 2 hours, the catch sensor lights up, red. Is it fat prey or just a big rock? The German fishing trawler Iris is currently operating west of Norway. The crew is catching pollock with the net deployed in the water for the first time. They're fishing at a depth of 130 meters. Below deck, the crew has started the factory, capable of processing tons of fish in just a few hours. It's demanding work that requires careful attention and absolute caution.
The fish must always be placed in straight. We insert the fish and the driver takes them along. Then they are cut open and cleaned with a brush. It's important to avoid reaching into the running machine, even when a fish gets stuck. The machine has an emergency stop feature that activates if something enters it, but it may continue to run briefly, and the blades will keep rotating.
The net is still in the water, and there's something caught in it.
The catch is red, so there'll be a few in there.
The catch sensor indicates that something is in the net, as shown by the red bar. However, the captain is unsure of what it is. The net is currently at a depth of 145 meters. The catch sensor is attached to the net and signals the captain when it's time to hoist it.
This is the catch. It's connected to the meshes with an elastic cable. Depending on how full the rump is, the elastic cable stretches outward. A wire runs through it. When the wire is pulled outward, it sends a signal to the bridge.
The captain decides to hoist the net.
My estimate around 6 to 7 tons. Maybe we'll be lucky to have a few more. We'll see.
The large winch begins to operate, winding up a kilometer of steel cable. After that, the heavy trawl boards will follow along with the net. Something is in it, but the exact contents remain unclear. The first fish appear, pollock. The end of the net is filled to capacity with pollock. These large fish will fetch a good price. Things must move quickly on deck to prevent the fish from crushing each other. This would affect the quality. The captain monitors the situation from above. Fritz Flindt operates the winches from the bridge. A sailor opens the rump. Tons of pollock slide into a tank directly in front of the factory below deck. The net is nearly empty, and the last fish are being caught by hand.
Pretty good, 8-9 tons. That's good for 6 hours of work.
Ja, von 6 Stunden, that's good.
The first net of the journey has been brought on board, filled with tons of pollock.
Now the last 25.
Before processing begins at the factory, the net is returned to the water. From this point on, fishing and processing continue for hours, days and nights. The boat has a loading capacity of up to 65 tons. If everything continues to go as well as during the first catch, this trip could be a short one. But fishing is always a game of chance, despite all the experience. The weather also needs to cooperate. The net is slowly lowered into the water for the second haul. Finally, the heavy trawl boards sink into the water. The crew aboard the Iris is in business. Below deck, the factory begins processing the fish. Each fish must be killed, either by machine or by hand. It's skilled knife work, and it's demanding labor. Fish that are too large for the machines are sorted out and then quickly slaughtered by hand.
It's important that they're put in like this. Drivers are in here that take the fish with them. There's a knife there, and then comes a brush that cleans the whole fish. It comes out of the processor there.
The fish have now been gutted and are being transported to the next station via a water slide and conveyor belt. The pollock lose the remaining blood in large pools of water. At this point, the fish have been out of the sea for less than an hour. There is also bycatch, in this case mackerel, which were also caught in the net. These fish are used as well. Everything that is caught is processed. The journey into the ice begins in measured portions. The cold storage room located on the lowest deck is the final stop. The first helmsman, Mark Hilge, is on duty here. He packs the goods onto ice. The ice machine operates continuously. Each tub must first be filled at the bottom. More is coming via the slide. Initially handled alone and then as a team, the caught pollock is placed on ice. This round yields approximately 9 tons of fish. The temperatures down here are minus 10 degrees Celsius, but the work still makes the men sweat. With their first catch, The rhythm of hard work begins both on deck and in the factory. The captain is constantly searching for new, promising fishing grounds. Breaks have become a luxury.
There's no more sleep now. The doors are locked.
Sailor Tom Sommerfeld uses the little time he has to eat. Like everyone else on board, he's always thinking of his fellow crew members.
Let's have something fresh for a change. Some vegetables, a few boiled eggs.
No time to take a nap?
But there's no time to take a nap. Maybe I'll doze off for half an hour or so. Let's have a nice, easy breakfast with coffee. Then we'll get going again soon.
The crew of the Iris has been fishing for 12 hours. They have already caught a little more than 15 tons, but no one has slept. The first night shift on deck is starting soon.
At first it's okay and you feel fine, but at some point you start thinking, what the hell is this? You have a cup of coffee, maybe go on deck, and then you feel better.
The crew prepares for the first night catch of the trip. A dangerous surprise awaits them. The deck is brightly lit. Still, the crew only sees what emerges from the depths at the very end. The fishing trawler Iris is in the fishing area at 62 degrees latitude in the North Sea. The crew is preparing to haul in the first night's catch. The deck is well lit, but the sea is completely dark. The men can only see a few meters into the distance. The trawl boards are attached to the ship. Soon, the net will be visible.
Party go.
Something is wrong. A steel cable or another foreign object is entangled in the net. Nobody knows yet how large the piece is or how much damage has been done. The winch is stopped immediately.
Manuel stood at the back of the deck. He noticed that we had picked up something wire-like, possibly a line or a towing wire from a tugboat. It was caught in our run.
The net is returned to the water. The position and knot may change. Foreign objects in the net pose a danger to the material, catch, and crew.
Sharp objects can cause the net to break, or you might accidentally reach into it and injure yourself.
The net has returned. It has worked. The knot has come undone. The steel cable is now entangled in the net for several meters. Time is crucial. The catch must not remain on the surface for too long, or it could get crushed by its own weight. The net is full. First, the crew secures the catch. Tons of pollock are hanging in the net and need to be brought below deck quickly. Fortunately for the crew, the end of the net is undamaged. Things need to move quickly now. The net must be returned to the water for the next catch, and the crew needs to go below deck. Relying solely on muscle power is not enough. The wire rope must be carefully pulled out using the winch. The individual wires gradually detach from the net without causing much damage. The heavy side cutter proves to be effective.
We carefully removed all the wire from the net. We made sure to do it slowly to avoid any damage. Now the net is on deck. We'll take it ashore to prevent it from going back into the water.
Done. The team overcame this challenge as well. Deep-sea fishermen often operate in extreme conditions and face significant risks. Experience and mutual trust are essential for survival at sea. The next test is just on the horizon. The trip is going well. Full nets keep bringing new fish aboard and below deck. On the bridge, Captain Fritz Flindt devises a plan.
Google Chrome siehst
The Iris is currently making its journey between Scotland and Norway. The ship is unloaded in Hanstholm. The goods are then transported by truck to Cuxhaven. Hanstholm hosts one of Europe's largest fish auctions in an unassuming warehouse. The auction takes place early every weekday morning. Real-time prices for various types of fish can be called.
I'll open up the auction. These are the prices. There are all kinds of fish listed here. Gurnard, haddock, plaice, hake, monkfish, sole, and then there's our main fish, pollock, pollock 4. I can read out all the prices. 16 tons, nearly 17. €1.82 to €1.96 for the small ones. The third range is from €2.08 to €2.16. The second from €2.08 to €2.46. The first is the best quality. We have a lot of them. €2.14 to €2.39.
Just a week ago, the price per kilo was well below €1, but it has tripled in just a few days. The increase is good for the crew. They receive a share of the catch.
That's what we caught. The traders need fish, fresh fish. We have fresh fish. And that's why we do it, and we try to get the right price.
It's a risky maneuver. While there's potential for a substantial profit, things can also go wrong. The Iris is located approximately 150 nautical miles from Hanstholm, and the auction begins on time this Friday. If the ship arrives late with the goods, they will no longer be considered for auction, and the Iris will remain moored in the harbor until Monday. The captain is briefing the crew.
We need to hurry. It's already rough now, and we still have 150 nautical miles to cover. We'll be underway for about 15 hours, and we'll arrive just before the auction starts.
Everyone is on edge. The last catch is aborted, and the net is pulled on board. Again, it's several tons. Good money if the plan works out.
It's full steam ahead so we can get there on time. We'll be there at 5 tomorrow morning and unload the fish. I have to make sure I step on the gas.
The trawler Iris is steaming through the North Sea at full speed. Outside, the sea is becoming rougher. It's a race against the weather and time. Below deck, the engine is operating at full capacity. The first helmsman checks the systems.
Temperatures go up, consumption goes up, pressure goes up. You have to keep an eye on everything. You have to check that no pipes have burst. But the engines are designed to operate at their limits.
The Iris is sailing at full speed towards Hanstholm. In the early morning, the lights of Hanstholm appear on the horizon. The goods have not yet been unloaded from the ship, and the auction starts in 2 hours. More than 30 tons of fish must be moved from the cold storage to the warehouse. Once the ship is secured at the pier, the hatches are opened. The men need to unload 35 tons of pollock from the Iris and bring it to the auction warehouse. Anything that isn't delivered by 6:45 a.m. will not be sold. Inside, the catch from various ships is already being prepared for sale. Auctions can generate up to 1 million euros every day, all within just a few hours. Once the bell rings, no more items can be submitted. The first tabs are now being removed from the Iris. Tons of fish are leaving the ship. The catch is less than 2 days old and has been kept on ice. It ensures freshness. Interested buyers are well aware of the quality. Captain Fritz Flindt personally oversees the unloading and storage process in the warehouse. Everything looks great. The time has come. The auctioneer rings the bell at 6:45. It begins. The auction progresses swiftly. The winning bidder is displayed on a large screen in the warehouse.
So far, so good. 15 Danish crowns. 20 containers for 1660. That's 220. We also have goods for 17 crowns. Very good prices.
The auction is still taking place at the back of the warehouse, but the entourage is getting closer. The captain is getting more excited. Tab after tab changes hands. Sometimes it's hundreds of kilos, sometimes whole tons that are sold and go out into the world. Now it's the Iris's turn. The buyers see that the fish is extremely fresh. They go for it. Within minutes, 35 tons of pollock are sold.
It was good. I'm satisfied. We're done.
Fritz Flindt's gamble paid off. Outside, the team learns about the results.
I'm pretty satisfied. We filled 100 tabs in around 24 hours. We went to the market on a Friday. It was the last auction. We earned good money. For a day's fishing, it was a very good trip.
We netted 56,000. Good money for 24 hours. The prices were great.
After one voyage ends, another begins. In fishing, many tasks take a long time and the distances traveled can be significant. But the lay time is always short. After several hours, the trawler Iris is ready for its next trip. The crew eats on board, fish from their own catch. The last meal in peace before heading back to the 62nd parallel. Outside, the final tabs are still being delivered and will soon be filled with ice and pollock. The logistics are running smoothly. The cooling chamber below deck is full. The first helmsman starts the engine. Before heading back out to sea, fuel is taken on board. The gas station is directly across from the harbor. Everything is much like on land, only the quantities are larger here. The Iris will soon set sail.
The tubs are ready on board and the ice machines are already running in preparation for tomorrow's catch. We've checked the refrigeration systems and they're cooled down. My helmsman, Mark, takes care of that, and I can rely on him. He does an excellent job. I don't need to constantly supervise him because he performs well on his own. Now we need to stock up on fuel, 20,000 litres, and then our journey will begin again. Let's make sure we're back here by Thursday.
The crew of the Iris is like a close-knit family. The men have known each other for many years, with some friendships spanning decades. They take risks together and push each other to their limits. Captain Fritz Flindt will soon disembark for the last time. After 48 years at sea, he will hand over the helm and responsibility to the next generation.
We want the next generations to continue fishing. I'm 64 now. I'll keep going for a bit longer, but not like I used to. I used to be so greedy for fishing. But now it feels fine to let the younger people take over. Mark will take it on one day. I'll say goodbye to the North Sea. That's all right.
The fishing trawler Iris is heading towards the fishing grounds at 62 degrees latitude. Captain Flindt and his crew are setting off once again, traveling north, where the Pollock awaits.